So that's a real-life example. If you really look at it, it's a fairly simple example, but it kind of tells you, gives you a broad-based view of a particular real-life case scenario and how SharePoint can automate such a business process. Now, you can kind of apply that to pretty much anything else. You can build a calibration management system in SharePoint. I mean, if you really truly want to. Or a maintenance management system in SharePoint. So it's again, it renders these various widgets. You have to have these various widgets talk to each other, and when you actually design the system, you can put all of that in place and put the entire business process flow in place and design a system just like how I talked about the training management system. Excuse me. So we talked about a particular application. What about Part 11? What about validation? Obviously, we're in this business. So how do we manage against all of this? Again, like I said, SharePoint is extremely configurable in the sense that you can really program it such that you can lock down every view, you can lock down every form, like the display form, the edit form. You can lock down what the user can see, what the user cannot see. You can go to that kind of a level as well. So the security for each individual library and list and site is extremely granular. You can set who can see what, and you can actually go down to a document level or an item level and set up security as well. From an audit trail perspective, there's fairly deep audit trail within SharePoint, and above and beyond that, you can actually use custom programming to enhance the overall user experience with the audit trail. So you can butt in before a document gets checked in, perhaps, and write an audit trail transaction or perform an e-sig transaction. There's a detailed publication by Microsoft as well, which talks about the Part 11 implementation using SharePoint and Office, and I'll be more than happy to route that across to whoever sends an email out to Becky at the end of this presentation. Lastly, validation. SharePoint is highly customizable. So there are a lot of different ways you can actually use SharePoint. At its root, it's an extremely validatable platform. So the way you would approach the validation is just like you would approach any custom-built software. So if your SharePoint implementation is extremely custom configured and coded, it's a white box to you. So just like how you would do a GAMP5 validation, you can do the exact same thing. With a client of ours, we set up that training management system. We validated it, and it was not, it wasn't a big deal at all. We just went through the entire GAMP process for validating it, and we did it. Similarly, excuse me, we did that EDMS as well. So where one of the validation documents, the process for authoring, reviewing, the approval workflows, how it was tied into this training management system, all of that was set up, and we validated that entire application as well. As part of that particular implementation, there were also libraries that were just out-of-the-box SharePoint functionality, like a system manuals library or an engineering documents library. But even these, we tested the basic functionality and made sure that it works. And we went through the entire validation without much of a hitch, and it worked out great. But it's also extremely important to have a strong system architect when you actually put something like this together, so that they plan out the overall strategy from a technology perspective. Also from the validation and compliance perspective, like change control and configuration management. For example, we ensured that the security was extremely tight and well set up. But one of the downsides is that, especially with security, people can change this as they go. A security administrator today, the system admin today is very different from the system admin tomorrow. And, the roles and responsibilities change over time. But we made sure that there were procedures in place to periodically check security, and there was an audit process in place to check the overall security against what it's supposed to be, and that's how we mitigated that. So it's critical for us to kind of manage that and maintain that. And the system is not just the application. The system is its processes and the people around it. So it's very, very important for that. And most, validatable applications like, the off-the-shelf applications that you get, like Abacus BPM or NextDocs or FirstPoint, are all products based on SharePoint. And then they use the more glorified example of what I gave you, the training management system. They obviously are accounting for it in a more broader perspective. That's all. So in effect, they work the system exactly like how I described it, but it's just a different business process, and they obviously check for a lot more things than the brief, simple case study that I presented. And there are also several online case studies that are available. These are freely available on Gartner's website, Microsoft's website for, the Pfizer's SharePoint implementation or Roche's SharePoint implementation, even Affymetrix, I think, and a few others.